Welcome, darlings. My name is 42, and we are on day 2 of the Halloween week. Today is stories that 2 got for us. So, turn off your lights, make sure your doors and windows are locked. Things are about to get spooky. As the little girl skipped rope in the yard, she didn't realize that a pair of glowing red eyes were watching her from her bedroom. When she stopped, the terrified monster shuddered in fear, as it knew that meant she was going to be back soon. Creepy Guy Follows Me Home and Into My Building by bluepushkin. Very long, I apologize. I don't know how to condense. Halloween night. Stereotypical, I know. Several years ago, I was followed home by a stranger. I worked at a large mall about an hour away from home. The stores closed at about 10 p.m., and the only bus home ran every hour and only dropped me off 2/3 of the way home, and I would have to walk the rest. This usually happened between 11 p.m. and 1 a.m. at night, depending if I could get the store closed down on time and if the bus wasn't too packed for me to get on. I'm not a small woman. I'm fairly tall and fairly round and not particularly attractive. My uniform was just a polo shirt and black trousers, flat shoes, all covered with a thick coat. I didn't see him get on the bus. To be fair, the bus was packed and noisy, and the walkway was crowded, and I did my best to just block it all out with my headphones and stare out the window. I'm not a people person, and having to work for 12 hours on a busy day surrounded by all the same assholes, I was just kind of pissed off and desperate to get off the bus and be alone. When we finally got to my stop and I managed to struggle my way to the front of the bus through the people that refused to move, I stumbled into the night air and breathed a sigh of relief. A couple of people got off the bus behind me, and I started up the hill, crossing the road to continue up the side street that led to my road. This side street is very long and has an offshoots into residential streets on a very steep hill going down. The street itself is lined with small shops, and there's high grassy banks on the opposite side that has houses along the top, so it feels very isolated after the shops close. Very few people get off at my bus stop at this time of night, and even fewer head in the same direction. Those that do cut off and go down one of these hills long before I get to the hill that leads up to my building. Now, the street isn't very well lit. The street lamps are few and far between. Several of them are motion activated, so they don't even turn on until you're right on top of them. I've walked home in the dark this way 1,000 times, and I've walked to work this way at 3 or 4 in the morning 1,000 times too, for a different job. Whilst I always enjoy the cool night air, and not afraid of the dark, and love how bright the stars are where I live, I don't loiter. I walk fast so I can get home and shower ASAP. This night, I noticed someone walking behind me. I usually do because, like I stated above, very few people walk this way at this time of night. I was aware of him and waved for him to turn down one of the side streets. He didn't. It felt a little weird, but I'm not the only person that lives in this area, so maybe he just isn't regularly walking this way this time of night. So I just never seen him before. I get to the medical surgery and car park at the bottom of my hill and cut across it as always. At this point, I know if he also heads up my hill, I need to worry a little more. This hill goes alongside the surgery, and then there are high walls on my side of the street that block off the flats in the other side from my road. They can only be accessed from the road before mine. At the top of this hill, this wall ends and turns into an alley that runs parallel to my building. The opposite side of the road has multiple closed pubs, a closed corner store, and an old church that has been converted into a Muslim worship center, which is also closed. There are even less street lamps here, and my building is surrounded by a metal fence with 20 or so feet of grass that slopes down to the entrance of the building where the doorway is lit up. The point is, it's isolated, and the only reason someone should be up here this time of night is if they live in my building. This guy crosses the car park after me, and now I'm feeling concerned. I know he doesn't live in my building. There are 9 flats over 3 floors and 10 people. I know all of them, and they know me. We recognize each other, even in this level of darkness. So I walk faster up the hill, hoping to get in the building before he catches up. He starts walking faster too. I can hear him gaining on me, and by the time I get to the gate, I know he's too close for me to be able to open the door and get inside before he's on me. The building is dark, and I know everyone is in bed, and it makes me feel all alone, and at this point, I'm shitting myself. So, thinking quickly, I cross the road and walk further up the hill behind the parked cars. I use the opportunity to swing my backpack off one of my shoulders and grab my keys. I wait for him to follow me and get behind the cars too, so it will take him just a little longer for him to be able to cross back over. Before I bolt across the road, throwing open the gate, I swing it hard behind me because he's now running at me, and I think it will either latch before he can catch it, or it will hit him. Either way, it will buy me a few seconds. I slid down the slope, barely staying on my feet because it's dangerously slippery when it's wet. I turn the corner at the bottom and slam my key card on the reader, pressing hard on the heavy door before it beeps so it will open that much faster. The door is heavy and on a fire safety hinge. That means I can't slam it or force it closed. The stairs are a couple of steps into the building and to the left. I live on the top floor. It's not a big building, 3 flats on each floor, 2 flights of stairs. It's also concrete stairwell, so every little sound echoes and can be heard behind closed doors. I get inside the building and immediately bolt up the stairs. I only get a few steps up when the door flies open behind me and this guy comes after me. Feeling a little more secure now I'm in my building and only feet away from my neighbors, I spin around before he reaches me and slam my heavy backpack into him. He falls back to the landing and manages to catch himself by grabbing hold of the handrail. I scream, "What the fuck?" at the top of my lungs and hold my bag in front of me. Now we're inside and the stairwell is lit by motion-activated lights and I get my first proper look at him. He's a little taller than me. I'm 5'8". He's black and old enough to be graying. His clothes are weird, all made out of that weird waxy material some waterproof jackets are, and he's wearing heavy boots. I don't recognize him at all, and he looks up at me with wide eyes as I stare down at him. I'm fully prepared to kick him in the face and throw my bag if I have to. I don't want him to be able to follow me into my flat, so I stare him down. He begins to stutter, hands winging over the handrail, and ducks his head a little, trying to look pathetic and harmless. He mutters something about visiting his son. Like I stated before, 9 people other than me live in this building. At that time, none of them were black, and none of them other than myself were young enough for him to be their parent. If his son did live here, how would he know to follow me off the bus to get to my building? Why did he follow me when I moved away from my building? And why did he chase me? He could have walked to the building and buzzed up to his son for him to let him in if this was true. I began shouting at him to get out, repeating those 2 words over and over again, sprinkling in, "I don't know you," and "You don't live here." He continues muttering, making his excuses, but I shout over him. When I hear neighbors moving around and coming towards their doors, probably to look through their peepholes, I begin to back up the stairs. My neighbor right at the bottom of the stairs, behind the man, opens her door, leaving her chain on and peering through at us. She asks me if I'm okay and if she needs to call the police. The guy spins to stare at her, his hands out in a stop motion, and I hear another neighbor open his door behind the stairs, also on the ground floor. He calls out to ask if everything's okay too, and I just yell out to both of them, "He followed me home, I don't know him, and he won't leave." I'm now at the top of the first set of stairs, still looking down at him. My male neighbor starts to tell him to get the fuck out, either more intimidated by the man than he was of me, or realizing he was outnumbered, he begins to try to open the front door. You have to press a button to get it to open, and he clearly doesn't know this. Further evidence, he's never been here before. Feeling more secure now I'm not alone and he's trying to leave, I bolted across the landing and up the final flight of my stairs and get my door open before locking it behind me. I was dripping sweat and very close to a panic attack. I dragged my Hoover to the front door and propped it up. Just in case someone tried to open my door, I would hear the Hoover fall. I didn't sleep very well at all, listening to every sound in the building, and luckily didn't have to work the next day. I woke up about 6 a.m. to a lot of sound in the building's landing. I could hear people opening every bin chute room and coming back out again. I peered through my peephole to see uniformed policemen searching the common area of the building. I didn't call the police, but I assume one of the neighbors downstairs did. The bin rooms are fairly large, so I imagine they were checking to see if anyone was hiding. I don't know for sure, and I didn't ask. Other than asking me if I was okay when we saw each other the next, the neighbors that helped on that night never said anything else about it. I don't know who he was or what he wanted. I've never seen him again, and I stopped working at that shopping center a couple of years later. I do feel guilty for not calling the police, just in case he has done this before or since, and the woman didn't manage to get away. But at the time, I just wanted to forget about it and move forward. First, put one finger in, then two, and push your whole hand in, she whispered to her nervous little brother. Once he had, she flipped the garbage disposal switch and laughed as he screamed. If you enjoyed that video, darlings, hit that like button and make sure it feels it. If you're new, subscribe and turn that pretty little bell to all notifications. If you'd like to help this channel or podcast, share it with anyone who you think might enjoy it. If you'd like to help this channel in other ways, there is a Patreon, merch, and a PayPal. Also, 242 has made a social media account on many platforms, and you can find them all through her tree link. I'll see you all tomorrow. Sleep tight and don't let me bite.